broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
There we go. We're going classy this week, y'all. See, it's always a very last-minute decision trying to figure out music to open with. So, because we're talking about episode 8, the title of which is May Old Acquaintance Be Forgot, we decided to go New Year. Even though we're in March, it's still, thematically vibes, whatever. But we got another full panel this week after last week's stellar show. We only got one episode to talk about, which is nice. We'll get very, very in-depth. So join us, won't you? As always, my name is Ty Matthews. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, at Ty Matthews PMA. If you're watching the video version, should be down there in that sweet little lower third. And joining me, as always, my favorite hosts on the planet. Guys, what are your names? Where can they find you?
Hey there, my name is Stacey Newsome. Yay! And you can find me, what? You guys can find me on Twitter at Stacey Santiago, Stacey, and on Facebook at Stacey Newsome Santiago.
I'm Jamie Banks, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JamieBanks_.
And I'm Nikki Preston. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Nikki Preston TV. And I'm also on Instagram at Nikki.Preston.
There you go. And as always, if you're listening on iTunes, remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars if you're nasty, all that good stuff. It really, really helps. If you're on YouTube, leave us one of those thumbs up. Leave us a sweet, sweet comment. We love hearing from you because we love talking about Second Chance. And we know you do too. So let's get into episode 8. Guys, what do we think of this episode?
Oh, I liked it. So much going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You didn't find out as much as you wanted to about Alexa and Connor. They kind of left that.
We barely saw Alexa.
We barely saw them, but a lot going on with Otto. Now I'm kind of annoyed with Otto.
So am I. I wanted to hit him in the throat. I'm like, oh, Otto. Dude,
I'm on Team Otto, guys. I'm on Team Otto. Hashtag Team Otto.
No, don't say that.
I like that we got to see a lot more of Jimmy's backstory and just what a bad guy he was. Yeah. But it always turns out that he was always doing the wrong things for the right reasons.
Of course.
Of
course.
And he was, I don't know, he's atoning for his sins. So, and Otto's like...
That's not why you're here, oh boy.
I like that it focused on Duval and Jimmy's relationship, but I think at the end it sort of left them in hot water and were in a worse position than they were before. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And it was interesting. I feel like we saw kind of both the highest high and the lowest low of the Jimmy Duval relationship. We saw, it really felt like they were making a lot of headway in terms of their connection, in terms of, when Duval is talking to Adair about Jimmy, being the CI, he knows that, or he even says that if he did something, it's because, it was to keep his city safe, so he knows that he's doing like you said, the wrong things for the right reasons. He's trying to defend him. He even says, as Uncle Jack, he says, I trust him with my life, which I think we all know is I think deep down, maybe super deep down, I think he means that. But then we also see once Duval finds out that Jimmy and Joan were a little bit more than just, chums.
A lot
just
more.
A little bit. I mean, 5 months. That's a long-ass booty call, guys.
And
5 months.
That's one thing that he can't justify doing for the good of the people. That was
right,
completely selfish.
Exactly, yeah. He wanted to, at first, he wanted to save her or whatever, but I mean, for 5 months, come on.
She's pretty good, though, I gotta say. I mean, she's really good at pursuing men.
Oh, she's a powerful woman. We'll get to her.
She scared me, actually. Like, at the beginning of the episode, I didn't buy it. I'm like, oh, female drug dealer, okay. Whatever.
I run this town.
And then she frightened me. I'm like, I don't want to cross this.
Exactly. So what do you guys think of kind of this dynamic that we see evolving, or maybe even devolving between Jimmy and Duval?
I think they did. I kind of agree with you. I think they took a step backwards, especially with the fight there and in the office. I was like, oh my God, this is not the right place or the right time to be doing this, getting into manners. But at the same time, I was a little bit proud of Duval for stepping up, for showing like that he is a man, because that's something Jimmy would do, go and start punching him. But like now you're seeing a little bit of maybe Jimmy even wearing off on Duval, who's I'm gonna, tell you how I feel. Get a little, a revenge, not revenge, but, get back at you a little bit for what you did to Mom.
But you can see the wheels turning as he's putting all the pieces together, like, wait a second, in my...
After that woman with the headphones on in the van listening in, does it seem like he's getting that?
Yeah.
This might have been line of the show. Might have been. But yeah, he, Duval says that him being gone for 5 months led to the pills, which I think we can infer. I mean, he didn't outright say it, but I think we can infer that might have led to her death, something like that. And so it really is kind of the first thing that we've seen that's genuinely unforgivable, and it's, it's like you said, Jamie, it's like he can't really justify his way out of this one. That's
but he didn't try to, though. He just explained what was going on.
Sure.
His thought process during that time. So.
And to his credit, he does say, when he's in the car with Mary, I think we do see a lot of that regret and a lot of him genuinely wanting to kind of turn over a new leaf.
And she says, you're a new man now, which I think is interesting because I'm not sure that he is completely new.
Well, he did say maybe. He
said
exactly that.
Sure. And I think there could be an element of truth to both sides.
And she didn't know him before. She doesn't really know if he's a changed man.
You don't know that.
She hopes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I love it how jealous she gets when she was seeing Jimmy with Joan. So jealous. And I really liked it too.
Oh, sure. Well, Jimmy and Joan were laying it on pretty thin.
Yeah,
that was heavy.
Gosh, very heavy.
When she's talking about the car, it's like, all right, this is getting graphic.
I know. Let me rub your arm.
Exactly.
Let me show you the stick shift.
I know, exactly.
It hugs those corners.
It goes tight on the curves. And deep.
And that's a dynamic that we see a lot of between Jimmy and Mary. We saw when Jimmy found out that Mary was having sex with Connor.
Yeah.
He kind of took it the same way. And it's interesting that it's taken this long in the season, and there still hasn't been really anything clear cut that's happened between Jimmy and Mary.
No, I think next episode though, because she came to him with I don't know if we can get there. Do I say it yet?
No,
Sure. With the great news,
right.
She's free of cancer, and I felt like they were going to kiss or something was going to happen. Maybe they'll start the beginning of next episode that way.
We've only got like a handful of episodes left. So.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to come when it comes down to her having to save him from Otto.
Oh yeah. Guys, I call it. That's what's happening.
I know. Otto or Jimmy, you got to choose.
Oh man. But yeah, so it's when I think like you said, when that finally does happen, it's gonna be because Otto has kind of not necessarily gotten drunk with power, but just now that Jimmy has kind of fulfilled his purpose, Otto is quick to say like, all right, he's gonna be leaving now.
Yeah, Otto doesn't even treat him like a human. Otto treats him like he's their toy or
his
something.
His exact words were, he's our experiment.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, and now it's one of those kind of moral, ethical quandaries that I've been thinking about over the course of this show. If, like we said, Mary's completely cancer-free now, she's cured. If someone's blood was discovered to be the 100% literal cure for cancer, how obligated are they to the rest of humanity to kind of be a test subject? How much free will do they really have if they alone have the key to this miracle cure?
Exactly. I feel like, if anything, Otto would maybe tell people, get it out, try to help others, where Mary just wants to keep Jimmy safe, keep Jimmy to herself.
Sure. Let's keep helping him solve crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Otto just wants to keep Mary safe and keep her to himself.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
He's such a wimp, though, now, Otto. I'm, like, so sick of seeing him mope around the house.
I know.
Staring at his goldfish, being all, like...
Wearing his oversized sweaters with the sleeves too long.
Well, I think we finally saw Otto take some action today. When they're using the holo projector, we see that one of the products, one of the new Looking Glass products has been taken. Otto's not happy about that. That's the only scene we see Alexa in, by the way. And we find out that Mary is using this holo projector to help them kind of make inways as far as this this Joan case, pretending to be Lenny's Uncle Jack, and he steps in. Otto steps in.
He messed up their jam.
He puts the kibosh on it, like briefly, but he puts a kibosh on it and says like, "Hey, like no one said you could do this."
Yeah.
I think he was really upset because this is one of the first instances that Mary really did her own thing rather than consulting him and thinking about them both, and she kind of just went with it, and so he was pretty upset.
Well, and like he said, he said that this is something we always do together. Looking Glass is kind of the manifestation of their bond, and so for her to be going off and solving these Scooby-Doo mysteries with the Pritchard gang, like I think he feels kind of left out. He feels a little bit ostracized, and so I think we're gonna keep seeing his reactions to that progressively get worse and worse and worse until someone gets hurt.
Yeah, I know. It's coming down to the end. We'll see what happens here. I kind of want to see an episode where they're not solving a case, though. Maybe something a little different. I did like this episode, though, because it wasn't quite so easy. Joan was so smart. It took them a while to catch her, so I did like that aspect. But yeah, I want them to mix it up maybe one episode.
Sure, she was always kind of one step ahead of them.
Exactly.
But it's interesting that it took Duval kind of straight up threatening to put a gun to Otto's head to finally get him to put the hologram back. That reminded me a little bit of the sheriff. That was something the sheriff would have done. Now this episode, you talked about Joan kind of being super smart and super powerful. This episode kind of had a sort of James Bond-ish feel to me.
With the technology?
Well, partly because of the technology, yes, but because it's like these are, Jimmy and Joan are this kind of duo that have known each other in the biblical sense, if you will, and he, they're both kind of using sexuality to their advantage, but she's kind of keeping one step ahead of him, and it seemed like he had to go into that sort of James Bond mode of kind of seducing information out of her, and then it didn't even work. And then she fell into that trap that all Bond villains do and explained her entire plot and got caught on camera. Like, you never monologue, guys. Have we not learned anything from, like, The Incredibles or anything like that? You don't monologue your whole plan. Because you never know. Especially in a universe where Looking Glass exists as a thing, there's cameras everywhere.
Exactly.
Hell, even in this world, there's cameras everywhere. So we're Looking Glass.
Especially in this room.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
If you guys could see, there's cameras everywhere. And that's how Skynet starts. And that's what I've been saying this whole time. Looking Glass is Skynet. It's going to become self-aware. Judgment Day is going to happen. Otto's going to get set back as John Connor. All sorts of stuff's going to happen. It's going to get real conceptual, guys. But yeah, what did we think of I guess, Joan as sort of the villain of the week?
She did. The actress... exceptional job portraying that badassness as a businesswoman. I mean, always, albeit a sideways business, more ways than one.
Yes, Stacey.
But very strong character, very convincing character. Like I said, I was frightened of her.
Oh yeah,
pretty quickly into the episode. So,
and I think she was really smart. She was always covering her tracks, thinking 2 steps ahead. Even in the elevator scene, she wasn't even there, so they couldn't even get her on that.
Sure.
And that's just kind of how she thinks.
And it worries me a little bit that a beautiful woman could, sidetrack Jimmy that much to let all that damage be done in the past. So it's making me wonder. I wonder if they're going to throw anyone else at him. I mean, Ty, do you have any experiences, I guess, where a woman is? Or is that too personal, maybe?
This became a whole new show, guys.
Okay, a little too personal.
Well, I'm trying to think what exactly you're asking.
Well, just like little things. You know how women sometimes can, like, I don't know.
I mean, sure, absolutely.
Get a good parking spot or get, something just for being a little flirtatious.
Sure, absolutely. And I think, the power that she had over him, and I think, the power that kind of women in general that have over Jimmy is sort of his fatal flaw. I think when it comes down to it, he's a sucker for a pretty face, and I mean, obviously Joan was so much more than that, but I think that they knew each other on such a level that he genuinely wanted to help her, and I think that's what ended up nearly undoing him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do see it wasn't even just a pretty face. You did feel like he had feelings for her.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And I think that made it even worse and harder for him to deal with everything.
Well, and I think he respects that power. I think if we've learned anything about Jimmy between both Joan and Mary, it's that he loves a woman with a sense of purpose and with a sense of direction, with a sense of power. And I think that that's one of the parallels that Mary and Joan had.
Well, he
between
wanted
the
to
two of
believe,
them.
he wanted to believe the good in her. He wanted to believe she wasn't behind
Right.
the heroin, you know?
Right.
Like he So I really feel like he has a way of seeing good in people too, even though he doesn't necessarily see it in himself so much.
You're right. And I'm really curious how, if we find out how his wife was, if she was a powerful woman or if she was almost like the opposite.
Right.
And then maybe that's why he needed some different women and some more excitement in his life.
Sure. We still have not really heard much of anything
No.
about her, you know. I mean, this episode was kind of the first time in a while. Speaking of, the first time in a while, this is the first time we saw Gracie in several episodes.
How old is the daughter? How old is Gracie?
18.
Okay, we keep going back and forth on that.
She was younger.
I thought she was younger.
At the
She looks
beginning,
young.
at the very beginning of the season, they were playing her super, super young.
Yeah.
But I think she seems to be in the 17 to 18 range.
Really? Well, then 20 isn't that bad. I thought she was like 15
I
or
thought she was
something.
13. Like
don't
from the
think
first
this shows-
episode and the scenes with the grandpa, she seemed like she was 13 or 14.
The way she acts and the dynamic that Jimmy and Gracie kind of have, you would think she's that young. But in one of the early episodes, they talk about her taking a college tour and things like that. And so she is a little bit older. I think it's partly just the way that she looks. She just
looks
has,
young.
has a very young face, but also the way that they've been writing her, the way that she's been interacting with other characters.
Yeah.
And we get kind of a very typical teenager sort of story with her.
Yeah, because she's like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm like, yes, he can. You're 12. What are you talking about?
This dude just stole your grandpa's gun, went to a shooting range, got blasted, and just started shooting shit around.
Exactly. I was worried he might shoot her by mistake or
Yeah.
something.
Right, exactly.
And she seemed like such a nice girl in the first few episodes. What happened? All of a sudden her father goes on one case and then it's like good girl gone bad or something.
That's how teenagers
Girls
are,
gone
man.
wild.
Oh no. She brings home this 20-year-old drummer who's taking a gap year, not doing any sort of schooling. Which Helen, we also saw Helen. She's not happy with. And we saw that sort of turn. I think it's kind of pitting her against the whole family at this point. She's not happy with Helen. I don't think. We didn't see a whole lot of them butting heads. I don't think she would be happy with Helen kind of getting involved and ratting her out, as it were. She's not happy with Jimmy because she still thinks that he's her uncle.
Yeah.
And so she thought that she had this secret with her grandpa that he didn't tell anyone else, and so now she's skeptical of him. She's skeptical of her dad telling her what to do. I mean, this is angry teenage girl versus the world.
Exactly.
I like that Helen went to Jimmy with this problem because
Instead of Duval.
yeah,
Okay.
and I like the fact that Helen feels like she has enough of a bond with Jimmy to go to him and say, basically, you haven't been in our family but 3 episodes, but we're having this problem.
I think they measure time in episodes.
And she trusts him enough to do so.
Yeah.
And thinks that he can solve the problem.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I liked that. I liked that a lot.
Well, and I think she knows that Duval is kind of impulsive enough to where if she runs to him and says, "Hey, our daughter went out drinking and taking this secret gun with this, drummer that we know nothing about," she knows that Duval's going to overreact.
Exactly.
And so I think it's kind of that perfect middle ground.
And I'm wondering if Helen kind of sees herself a little bit in Gracie. Are we picking the wrong guys, the guys that her dad isn't going to like?
Oh, sure.
So I feel like she was trying to help her out for a little bit, but then, when he's starting to shoot guns and be crazy, she can't let that go on.
Right, exactly. I like that it had been so long since we had seen Gracie, but it was just like the way that they're acting. It's like, oh, she's been here the whole time. I think last week they mentioned something about her being on some nebulous school trip or whatever. And it's like, don't worry about her. Don't think about her. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit more about that fight that almost happened. Like I love in the show, and they've done it a few times, where when someone punches Jimmy in the face and it barely even phases him. And he had to stop himself, because you got to think what sort of damage a punch from him would have done to Duval.
Exactly, and I'm so proud of himself too for not getting angry and giving in and punching him, being the stronger person. And,
well, I get the feeling he's probably punched him before in their previous life.
Sure, exactly. And I think now, between them being in the middle of the bureau and not wanting to attract attention, but also just how much more power is behind those punches now. I think he has to think a little bit more critically about, like, all right, let's think about this. Let's not make any snap decisions. Let's not go around punching people.
Yeah.
Because he even, and this is something I didn't even put together until just now, he rears back with his right fist. And when he's got that tattoo guy from the inkwell up against the dumpster a couple episodes ago, he tells him the left fist the hospital, the right fist the morgue.
I didn't even notice that.
He doesn't want to hit him with that one.
I didn't think about that either.
Yep.
Yeah, you'd probably give him a concussion if he actually punched him.
Exactly. Little reference to Mirko Krokop for you MMA fans out there. Like hospital, like morgue, all that good stuff.
Another moment I liked between Jimmy and Duval is when they were playing catch in Mary's house.
Oh, I love that. I totally forgot about that.
Father-son playing catch, really cute.
I loved that moment. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
She was like being a total mom. She's like, "Can you guys take that outside?"
Right.
I'm gonna take that outside.
I know. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I would have loved to see like kind of the lead up to that. Like, who initiated that?
Yeah.
Whose idea was that? I would have really liked to see that, because I think that would, knowing who suggested that or who started throwing the ball around, I think it might have been Jimmy. Knowing that, obviously in his past life, we know they probably didn't play too much catch, But that was a really endearing moment.
It was an endearing moment, and then I think they built up your hopes that, oh yeah, these two are really bonding now, only to dash it at the end with that fight,
You're right, so much give and take, we never know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like I said, I think we saw a lot of peaks and valleys, as it were, with the Pritchard dynamic. What else we got
and
here?
the technology, too. Can you believe that? I love some type of machine that can tell if people are how many ever yards away based on their heartbeat.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
and you gotta think that that's like one of Looking Glass's low-tech options.
I don't know. Some of the technology, my 2015 or 16 brains, like, come on. Really? Come on. Really?
Right.
The hologram thing was cool. I couldn't really understand how that worked.
Yeah, they didn't explain it.
Well, they talked about hacking.
They don't know how.
I know.
They're like, we're just gonna
right?
make up some shit. We don't know.
They talked about hacking into Lenny's last Skype session with his uncle. So you got to think, they gathered all sorts of facial data or whatever, scanned Duval, and then just kind of mapped it onto him the way that like video game skins get mapped onto polygonal models, stuff like that. I think
then maybe like a green screen type of thing
exactly,
going on.
Exactly. But I do love that it's like, oh, don't think about it. He's got grid projected onto him. That's all they need.
Just go with it.
Exactly. I think if we're talking about Looking Glass, that's a good philosophy. Just go with it. Just believe it. I do love that. Like, I think we've talked about this before. It does seem like Jimmy and kind of this whole gang are really the only ones that have Looking Glass phones.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at his phone, it's this like super thin, clear, like super future phone. And I feel like everyone else is working on like
flip phones,
maybe iPhone 6 or 7.
Blackberries.
Exactly.
Everybody else is on Blackberries still.
I know, iPhone. Get with the picture here. I want one of those clear phones. That's awesome.
We're not even seeing Apple Watches in this show, guys.
No, not at all.
And the camera and the contact lenses?
Yeah, I like that too.
Right.
Amazing. Yeah. And then another thing that was kind of bothering me is Jimmy, who's supposed to be so smart. I feel like he's always revealing way too much information. We're seeing this in all the episodes.
Oh, definitely.
That he's, giving too many hints that, he was older and people are getting confused. And then this episode, he took it way too far.
Way too far.
Way too
calling
far.
her by her nickname.
He loves dropping those hints.
I know.
Like, I said this when I was an old guy. Did you get it? Jimmy, shut up.
I think he just forgets he's young. And I mean, unless he has a mirror with him 24/7, maybe he just, in his brain, he's an old guy.
I feel like he wants to prove that he's so smart and like a step ahead of everyone, but he's going way too far. Way too far.
No, I feel like he's just a 76-year-old man in his head. I really do. I don't feel like he's doing it like to make himself look like, hey, look, I'm Superman.
I don't know. I feel like it might be both. I feel like by now he might have had a chance to get used to his super $6 million man body. But like, I also do think that there's an element, and I think it fits with the Jimmy character where it was like kind of a wink and a nudge really to no one, but just to like feel clever. I feel like that could be possibly part of it.
Or that could possibly be just for the audience to remind us he used to be an old guy.
Oh, that's definitely, we definitely get a lot of those.
Yeah.
I feel like every other like tangentially related character is like, you know, you got a really old soul. Or like, he's got kind of a sheriff vibe to him. Like, all right, guys, we get
I know, we know. We've been watching the show all season. Yeah, we get that he's an old man.
That's where I thought that it was gonna go with the lady in the van, you know, the one that kind of makes out their sort of relationship. It gets a little bit more vague, and so that's fine, but I really thought that she was gonna be like, you know, he seems like an older guy. You know, like he's acting older. Like, I feel like in this universe, if someone is acting like more mature or anything, we're not so quick to point it out. Like, they've got a really old soul.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wanted Duval to kind of come up with that. Why do we need her to say, like, I think there was something going on between the two of them.
Exactly.
Like, he couldn't figure that out or see it.
He might have been kind of figuring it out, but wasn't really sure. Or,
Sure.
like, could see it coming.
Or maybe didn't want. Yeah, exactly. Didn't want to admit it.
True.
Because I think he saw their interaction in the car in the first time, right? Where they're practically on top of each other right then and there.
But at that point, he could just blame her. Like, okay, she's using her sexuality to sell
He's
this car.
coming on a little strong. Really wants to sell that car, guys.
Just doesn't have the cowboy hat. That's all she needed was the cowboy hat
sheriff's
from
hat.
Or the sheriff hat.
Yeah, exactly. And that was another thing. I kept thinking, and he says it later on that she was, very young, but I kept thinking, like, what was the age difference between them?
I think like 20 years.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because she must have been at least like 20 or maybe like 25 when this first started. And he said Jimmy was Duval's age when this happened, so probably like 40s.
Right. Okay.
So,
I can see that.
and she still looks pretty young now.
Sure. I could see her being like a good-looking 55. I don't think
she's that old. I think she's maybe 50.
Well, if there's that could up it to 25 because we know that Jimmy's 75.
Yeah.
And so we gotta think like, wonder how he aged.
Yeah.
But
not so hot, to be honest.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, no offense to Philip Baker Hall, but,
And they keep popping him in. I thought he was only going to be maybe in the first episode.
Me too.
So it looks like he's going to continue to be in the episode here
like
and
that.
there. Yeah, it's cool.
To remind us.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know if you guys remember, he's really old. Up here, 75. Here, like 29. We didn't see anything of Connor in this episode. No. For someone that is obviously going to have such a big part of the show, I think, going forward in these last couple episodes of the season, we saw zero, not even a mention, not even a brief mention of his name. Nothing at all.
We didn't see the tank either. This is another week he's
That's
not having on the tank.
That's right. No longing looks for Mary while he's in the tank.
Maybe they figured they needed to get away from that device every single week.
Yeah, after a while, we don't want to watch him in the tank anymore.
It's like,
we get it.
We know he floats around like some weird baby. Like,
is he responsible now, though? He doesn't have his watch to tell, okay, I got 12 hours until I need to get back in the tank.
And I'm interested, that's another device that we haven't seen is that he's got a limited amount of time, He's got to still be working on battery power.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't seen any of that.
Or when Otto corrected his DNA or something, maybe that fixed that problem.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe upgraded his batteries.
Yeah.
And now he's cursing himself for it.
Yeah, he's becoming stronger, so maybe his battery's longer now.
Sure.
He runs on solar power now.
I wonder though how Otto's gonna get rid of him, if he's gonna try to destroy the tank, or if he's just gonna send him out in the street. What's he gonna do? What's his plan for getting rid of him?
I think he might initially try to be civil about it and say, you know what, you've fulfilled your purpose. Door's right there. Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out. But I think that's definitely a natural progression. I think I could see Otto with crazy eyes, holding a sledgehammer or something, just wrecking that tank, and weird amniotic fluid going everywhere.
You know, I kind of want to see Otto go crazy. I hope he does.
Absolutely.
He has to, right?
Yeah.
His character's got to go somewhere.
Exactly.
He can't just stay flat the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. His paranoia over losing Mary is going to reach like a boiling point, and we're going to see wacky Otto.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to, I don't know about kill Jimmy, but do something really sinister and like trick him, because I don't think he's just going to be like, okay, now leave, because that's not going to work.
Maybe he'll do something to like alter his DNA again and make him just mere mortal and weak.
Could be, or maybe he could use Looking Glass technology. You know, from the beginning of the season, I've been saying Jimmy versus Otto is Superman versus Batman. it's this super strong, super fast guy versus
the guy with the tools
versus this guy. Exactly. Yeah, he's got the money and the gadgetry, but he's a normal guy. So I think it's really going to end up being Jimmy versus Looking Glass vis-a-vis Otto.
Exactly.
We're going to see some sinister stuff.
Or I think maybe he's going to throw Mary into it. Maybe Otto's going to be like pretend that she's hurt or needs help, and then kind of set Jimmy up in some way,
that's
or
very
like
good.
threaten that she'll. But I don't know if Jimmy would believe that Otto would hurt Mary. But maybe be like, I'm gonna do something if you don't leave. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see.
I think definitely the part about Otto maybe potentially lying about Mary being in danger, that could definitely happen. But you also have to think with Otto's kind of lack of social skills and things like that. He joked, or I mean not joked, but he said a couple episodes ago, "I'm literally incapable of joking." And so you got to think he might be incapable of lying too. But who knows?
And is Arthur going to be on Otto's side or Mary's side? Like, are they going to be battling back and forth? Like, Arthur, do this to Jimmy. No, don't stop.
Right.
Like,
who's got the ultimate override? Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, what's the talk of this other donor Otto was speaking of? Like, who is he speaking of? What's her name?
Alexa,
Alexa.
maybe?
It very well could be
It
Alexa
could have
for
been.
sure.
That's what I was wondering. If it was.
That makes a lot of sense. Because he probably doesn't know. We know that he doesn't know that Alexa changed back.
Right.
So he probably thinks that that's the other donor.
Interesting.
Good call.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
Yeah.
But now that Mary's cured, we don't really have a need for another donor anymore.
I know. Are they going to get rid of Alexa too? Like, goodbye, we don't need you anymore either.
Right, exactly. You don't need to be Mary's assistant anymore.
You've been terminated.
Right, exactly.
We'll get some real people in here now.
That could be. That very well could be. I think we've seen how kind of frantic Alexa is. Like I can see Mary going like, you know what? Maybe take a few months off, and then maybe we see Alexa go crazy too.
Go ahead and file for unemployment.
Right. Exactly.
We won't block you.
Right.
We won't dispute it.
But yeah, we got, a lot of good stuff. We also, we talked about how smart and how powerful Joan is to the point of, murdering Lenny and making it look so much like defensive, like an accident, something like that. She was putting on a hardcore performance for the cops, and it didn't seem like anybody other than Duval and Jimmy were suspecting like she could be lying.
Exactly. She even had bruises or something. Like, I wonder if she had one of her guys like put bruises on her.
I can see that being like a Fight Club type of situation where she's just like beating the shit out of herself.
And when she said, "and he beat me," that really made me think that she was just repeating this crime 20 years ago.
And that's exactly,
it was like, in her head, she was like, okay, it worked last time, so I'm going to just try this the same way.
Yeah, that's right. Because Jimmy did mention that her boyfriend was beating her. And
and they wouldn't maybe go back to and be like, oh, this is kind of happening again. This is a little bit odd. You're right. No one suspected that this was weird besides Jimmy and Duval, which I don't know, I thought was a little funny there.
We definitely got a lot in this. I'm wondering did we cover everything? Because it seemed like there was so much.
I know, there was so much. I couldn't even fit it all on my one page. I tried to keep all my notes on one page.
Exactly. Me too. Yeah, usually I'm only with one page.
Well, apparently, according to next week's episode, there's like this other monster out there.
Oh, we got, and you know what? That is a perfect segue. Guys, let's get into some predictions.
Now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So good. Theremin all day, every day, guys. Let's start with Nikki.
Wow, well, we did see a little bit of next week, so we do know that Jimmy is in a little bit of danger. He's not quite as strong against some of the villains as he normally is. So we do know that, obviously, but I think something's going to happen between him and Mary. I think they're going to celebrate, maybe get a little bit cozier, and I think Otto is finally going to take some action. We're gonna see something big next week. I don't know exactly what, but I know it's going to be pretty big.
Oh yeah, we're seeing supervillain Otto for sure. Jamie,
Definitely. I think maybe a first kiss between Mary and Jimmy. Also, I think Gracie's boyfriend is going to come back, and maybe Gracie will be in trouble or some sort of setup there just because that they introduced him. So I think something will come of it.
Well, now, do we think that they were being kind of a little bit deliberately misleading, kind of painting him to be such a bad guy? Do we think that he might come back in a negative way, or is he just kind of a burnout? Like,
I don't know. Either he'll come back or it will just be a setup for tension between Gracie and the rest of the family, and then maybe Jimmy will come in and save the day, or there's got to be something there.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Stacey?
I predict that if not next episode after next, Helen will find out that Jimmy is her father.
That's right. We got to do that too.
Okay. Do you think that Gracie's going to find out?
I think, by default she will, yes.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I think we're going to see that relationship blossom more because it was so much tension between the two of them in this episode.
Sure. I feel like Gracie's going to be the one left in the dark at the end of the season. I feel like Helen might know, Duval might know. I think Gracie...
Actually, I disagree with you. I think actually Gracie might be the last one to find out because she's the one that had the closest relationship with him.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. So yeah, I definitely think... I don't think we're gonna see Gracie find out. I think we're definitely gonna see Otto go full supervillain mode, and maybe I would hate to see Jimmy have to put the hurt on Otto, but it might get to that point.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna find out there's just monsters everywhere running around.
Exactly. Yeah. What do we think?
Looking glasses discards.
Right. We saw a glimpse of the next on for next week's episode 9. What do we think of this monster that's even stronger than Jimmy is?
I think it's Connor. Maybe Connor's behind something and has
interesting.
created
Okay.
some
Oh,
monsters.
good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Why do you think he might have? Do you think Connor knows about Jimmy?
I don't know if he knows about Jimmy, but I know that he probably believes they're working on something, and he probably feels like it's just too weird that Mary is doing so much better now. So I do feel like he's onto something, but he may not know about Jimmy.
Yeah, he knows about Otto's code. Obviously, he's trying to get that through Alexa.
I think Connor does know about Jimmy because when Alexa sent him the code, it was right when Jimmy his code was on the tank. So
Right.
I think he knows, and Mary and Alexa also knows and pretends not to.
Sure, interesting.
You're right. We might not even need Otto to be the bad guy. I mean, Connor might come back and try to destroy Jimmy next week.
I think we're going to see the Pritchards and the Goodwins all come together to eliminate Connor. I think that's definitely the big bad of the season.
Maybe there'll be a twist. Maybe Connor will try to destroy Jimmy, and Otto is the one that saves him.
Oh, now that would be awesome. I would like to see that.
Interesting.
I feel like the only reason Otto would save Jimmy is because if he really wanted to save his code and his project and his science, not because he cares for Jimmy.
Or if something happens to Mary again, like they thought she was cured, but she really wasn't and needs a little more blood or something, and we need him back.
Right. Man, right. I feel like we went through so quickly.
Yeah.
We went kind of short this week, but you know what? It's good because next week we got a special guest. We got Vanessa Linders coming in who plays Alexa on the show. So she'll be in.
Where will she sit?
Right.
Yeah, what do we do
She
here?
might be in one of these babies if we're in this studio. Who knows? But you know what? That about does it. So guys, tell them where they can find you. One more time. One more again.
Sure. You guys can find me on Twitter at Stacey Santiago or on Facebook, Stacey Newsome Santiago.
Find me on Twitter and Instagram at JamieBanks_.
I'm Nikki Preston. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Nikki Preston TV and on Instagram at Nikki.Preston.
And as always, you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, at Ty Matthews PMA, as well as various other after shows. Right now I'm on, of course, Second Chance, as you're watching, The Magicians, Monday Night Raw, Lucha Underground. I mean, all over the place. I'm having so much fun talking about TV with you guys, which reminds me, like I said at the top of the show, if you like what we're doing, let us know. Tweet us, follow us on Instagram. If you're on iTunes, download, rate, review, subscribe. All of that helps so much. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, but just most most importantly, interact with us. We love talking to you, so we want to hear from you. Let us know how we're doing, 5 stars. Just saying. But we'll be right back here, like I said, with our very special guest, Vanessa Lenges. Same time, same channel, next week, Sunday night, 7 p.m., talking episode 9 of Second Chance, guys. We love you, but until next week, take a chance. Peace!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.